Yeah. Hi, Jack. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
We have to stop meeting this way. Mr. Grady, how are you? Saw you walking your dogs. Tracy, he's got the coolest dogs in the world.
I know. I saw the funky vest,
Oh, yeah.
the coyote vest, right, Paul?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, haven't had to use it, but he's worn it.
We just talked about it at ET because I haven't done that yet.
The big one doesn't need a vest because the coyotes need a vest when he's around.
Meeting, but I can't remember.
Yeah, he's a tough boy.
Question. I'm gonna hold up on things. Oh, you were?
Corey, how are you? And Jean's here.
I can say that we're gonna talk about it at ET, but my guess is we're probably gonna give certain notice next.
Okay, Diane is between planes right now, or actually she's boarding, so she won't join us.
No, I could do it by like a poll. Do you know what I mean? Like I could just make sure people are aware of it. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal. Yep.
Mhm. Well, everybody just about all set? Corey's here, Tracy's here, Michelle's here. We have a quorum. It is 7 o'clock. So everybody ready? Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Tuesday, September 20th meeting of the Town of Cohasset Select Board. I want everybody to remember that this is conducted on the Zoom platform, and it's live streamed on Cohasset 143 and the Cohasset's Facebook page. The public is invited to participate on the Zoom platform, and that can be accessed in the link on the top of the posted agenda for tonight's meeting. Members of the board and other scheduled participants will be able to participate when called on by the chair. Board members will be able to ask questions of any participant. All votes taken in this meeting will be by roll call. Members of the public who wish to ask questions are asked to raise their virtual hand. It's on Zoom, and at the discretion of the chair will be promoted into the meeting. Members must provide their full name and address for the public record. Please note that comments made on platforms other than Zoom will not be monitored. This meeting is being recorded and will be available for later viewing on Cohasset 143. Okay, as is our custom, we will open this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance for all those who wish to participate. It's a flag over my corner. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. As is our custom, we open the beginning of the meeting to any member of the public who wishes to speak. All comments made are the purview of the person speaking them. There'll be no discussion or back and forth on this. These items may, at the discretion of the select board, be incorporated in a future select board meeting. Tracy, is there anybody waiting to speak?
Just Corey. No one from the public.
No one from the public. I'm not sure what the protocol is on select board members who want to speak in the public, but.
You have to do roll call, Jack.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All right, roll call. Paul. Paul, you're muted.
Paul Grady, present.
Corey.
Corey Evans here.
Jane.
Jean Haley, they're both here.
Jack Creighton here. Diane Kennedy has indicated she will not be here. She's traveling. Okay, public comment. Tracy, do we have anybody waiting? Okay, hearing no public comment,
No.
we'll go back. Did I hear somebody say something?
No public comment, Jack.
All right, thank you. First on our agenda is the select board looking at our goals for fiscal year 23. Number one, roads and sidewalks. So who has comments, suggestions on roads and sidewalks?
So Jack, the agenda item is that with roads and sidewalks, we've received a proposal.
Yes,
Tech consultant and Brian Joyce is going to describe it.
okay.
Good evening.
That was recently added into the packet for those who are looking once we go.
Yes, so the consultant that did our road assessment recently gave us a proposal on sidewalks per the request of the select board. The initial proposal was included all the sidewalks, and the value is a little high in the 40,000s range. So we met with them. We talked about, you know, what makes sense as far as prioritizing our sidewalks going forward, and looking at our road plan, which is in line with the assessment that they did. It really makes sense to do sidewalks along with the streets that you're paving. So the ones that have major rehabilitation and minor rehabilitation on the plan, which are at the forefront of getting the roads paved, it makes sense, economies of scale, to do the sidewalk while you're doing that and not hitting sidewalks where you won't be paving the road. So we truncated their task down to assessing those sidewalks that were in that report, you know, the yellows and the reds, the major and moderate rehabilitation work. And that assessment, which includes a categorization of the sidewalk condition on graded 1 through 5, width for ADA compliance, and handicap ramps and accessibility to crosswalks in the area. And that assessment was for $28,500, which I believe you have in your packets.
Yeah, that is in the packet. Comments from the select board?
Just,
Go, Corey, go ahead.
Brian, is this just for we've got a proposal vote. Is this we have to approve the funding for this? Is that what the question is in front of us, or?
So the funding will be underneath in our road funding budget. It's already funded effectively. If you vote to move forward with this, it's just a matter of, you know, the actual proposal and do you think it's worthwhile?
And then for the report, yeah, I see it's a $28,500 assessment. What's kind of, I know it's hard, but what kind of information are we going to glean? The thing that's in the back of my head is that parking study we did, and we paid money and we just didn't really learn much. So what can we expect from this when it comes to determining what our next steps are moving forward? Just give us a little bit of preview of what we could look for.
So I think the main, you know, as far as, you know, we've been talking about long-term planning and capital funding. The main deliverable on this is going to be similar to the road spreadsheet that they made in that report. It'll quantify the condition of each sidewalk, give you its issues as far as where, you know, there may be choke points where we have ADA accessibility or ramp issues. And then it'll also give us a cost on rehabilitating. And that's kind of the big help in my mind, the deliverable. And we can use that for capital planning. Now, just something on the cost, and I know it's, when you look at the other report, it is, you know, it's eye-opening to look at some of the costs of the streets out there. And it is, I just want to say it's based on the MassDOT construction cost estimating tool. So it is conservative. And when I say conservative, I mean like conservatively high. I think hopefully our contract value through MAPC would be a little lower than those estimates, but I think it's a good planning tool. You know, we don't want to plan for something that's going to cost less than what it actually does cost.
Okay, Paul,
Sorry,
comment, Brian.
Corey, are you all set?
just one more, if you don't mind, Paul.
No, please, go ahead.
And this is and just to be clear, Brian, this is for only existing. There's no new. Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Just existing.
Paul,
Hey, Brian, how are you? So, question for you. So how do we prioritize? You know, is it by condition? So how are we going to prioritize? Like, you can educate me. Is I look at
So yeah,
the
I mean,
the most traveled, like say Jerusalem. I'm speaking just out of turn. You know, I look at like Jerusalem, I look at like Pleasant, where the kids are walking or the access to the beach or something like that. And so I'm just wondering how you guys prioritize that if we go through with this project.
so in my mind, like I said, we're going to prioritize. It's going to follow basically the street prioritization. So if you had a sidewalk that may not be the worst case scenario, but the street is almost undrivable, I'll put Margin Street out there. You know, there's a section of sidewalk, although it's not around the entire perimeter there. But Margin Street, Elm Street, those streets, when we do pave them, which are higher on the priority list, we should hit the sidewalks at that time. Just for mobilization cost savings, right? So in my mind, it's kind of following the lead of the road plan. But if there is an egregious sidewalk somewhere where it's, very hazardous, we could address that kind of on a temporary measure, as we have, with tripping hazards in places around town.
Can I have one more question on you? I mean, I think everybody, can I go, Jack?
oh yeah, no, I said, go for it.
There was a thing on 143. Now, this is something I'm asking you about. South Main, North Main, I apologize. And,
Okay.
but I walk my dogs up on Main Street. We all know it's not the greatest condition, but here's something I throw at you. So we prioritize do that sidewalk, and what happens, say, with the trees and things like that, because I'm assuming you're going to get pushback because of that. And that's something that's, I'm walking, I said, Jesus, maybe that, the needs of the trees or whatever, we put gravel and make a gravel walkway. Again, I'm speaking completely out of turn, and I'm saying, how do you address those needs, those sidewalks that need replacing, but those are bounced up by roots, for instance?
Yeah. So yeah, it's challenging out there. So those ornamental trees were planted, I don't know, probably 50 years ago, right? And now they're growing mature, and the root system is just pushing up the sidewalks. You see it on both sides of the, Highland Ave and North Main Street. So we've gone through in a few places, removed the asphalt, and kind of regraded where the root system is, trying not to cut a major root of the tree so it doesn't die. But we've done a few of these around town, and we'll continue to do that. There's one I think in front of the old parish by the nursery there, where we're going to take care of in the short term. And as far as overhead vegetation, it's a constant. Every year we go through and maintain. It's a 7-foot clearance, and if you walk that side, I know you walk that sidewalk, you said with your dog, you'll see that some of those branches, because the foliage are down, and those are going to be trimmed up to about 7 feet. Over the roadways, it's 14 feet height. So again, it's a maintenance thing. The sidewalks where there's a major tripping hazard, I think it's best to address, those small areas where we have a root, pushing up. And then when we plan the entire sidewalk, we'll have to go into a grading plan and how we're going to transition to driveways and aprons and things like that. And the cost of that entire sidewalk would be part of the plan, that TEC, or at least the cost and the challenges will be addressed or identified in this report.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Corey, is your hand up again or still up?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to tee off of what Paul said about prioritization, but I mean, Gene hasn't gone, you haven't commented, so I'll wait for the round to come around.
Yeah, thanks, Corey. Thanks, Brian. It was helpful seeing the tech proposal. So one of my main concerns is timing and cost. So what is tech's turnaround on this proposal for us to start making progress to create a plan that we then implement?
So we have a, so we need to update this, but it's, it will be less, I anticipate, than the turnaround on the road plan. So I would say probably a month and a half.
Okay. And my other question is this work, I feel like we need every dime in our road budget, given the state of our roads and sidewalks. And so is this work that we can do internally within DPW staff? Because by my count, we're looking at 7 miles of sidewalks that they would be surveying for $28,000. And it strikes me, we probably have the technical expertise to do this in-house, but I'd be curious as to your feedback on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could lay eyes on it and take pictures. I mean, I think it's I'm the only PE on staff, and the other staff we're actually undermanned in 2 of our departments right now. I do think it should be an engineering analysis. It's just a matter of, you know, prioritization and time. You know, we have going through the 75% GAC design, working with RTF. You know, there's just a compost issue up there. So we're just working through a lot of issues. If this becomes top priority, we can, you know, set some time aside to do that. I think it also is good to, you know, like many hands make light work, many minds on an issue. You know, it might give you a different perspective having another engineering analysis, and then make sure it's in line with what we're thinking. So there's some value
Yeah,
there.
just to follow up on that, you know, my thought is that one of the real values that we're getting is an estimation, but if it's based on the DOT's cost estimator, where they're looking at, you know, 3 types of conditions, and then they're plugging the numbers into an average, then, you know, maybe we need to factor that into what the value is we're actually getting.
So have you seen their spreadsheets? If not, I can share. It's a little more scientific, you know, the estimate, you know, this one's a condition 1 and what's the length, and it plugs in, you know, gives you an estimate. It basically gets into, you know, area, square yards, depth, and then quantity estimating of a sub base, and then quantity estimating of your top coat. Also on your aprons, you know, tread mats, area of concrete you might need, or curbing transition, and then grade slopes, which is important with ADA, you know, making sure you have your 2% grade or less. So it's not as easy as walking 7 miles of sidewalk and taking some pictures. It's there's going to be some science behind it.
Okay.
Corey?
Yeah, so just 2 things. One, on the cost, I mean, it is worth remembering that, you know, town staff isn't free. So like, it's not if we're going to do it internally, we may be spending 10 or 15 grand in labor costs anyway for a product that, you know, and there's prioritizations of other stuff that DPW's got to do. It's especially coming up in the winter. So in that way, it makes sense getting some assistance, especially for our overworked guys, makes a lot of sense. I do, you know, I'm going to bang the drum that I always bang here, which is the sidewalk study committee. This would be, I think Paul alluded to it earlier, you know, there's areas of town that are really high priorities that we could do even outside of this thing that we know about. We also have to talk about new sections. I mean, there's a lot of pieces here. And I know there's a lot of people that I've talked to and have reached out to me that want to be involved in this. We can create a committee to get through this, to invite people to participate, to chew through this, and, you know, really get to the bottom of what the problems are, and then do something about it. I appreciate my colleagues trying to do this quickly, but I think we can do it more quickly and more efficiently by, you know, including more people and formalizing this. That's my pitch. Thank you.
We had, point of information, we had discussed this and had some discussions of doing some preliminary work last June, late June, I believe it was. And we've been bandying this back and forth. I think it's clear that whichever way we do with the committee or whatever, that we get this underway because it is important. One quick question, Brian. Is it possible for you, just in your knowledge, to see some probably really high priority things that you might be able to get done before the winter if you determine that really we should do that? And that's just throwing out, I'm not making that suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, we're constantly getting feedback from the public on problem areas, and we've gone out and fixed problem areas, and we're going to continue to do that. And then it's usually, come winter time, it's battling the potholes, right? But this year, we hit our target. We had a piece of Jerusalem Road, Beach Street in its entirety, and Sawyer Street in its entirety. So it's about a little over 1.7 miles of road, right in our target range of the 1.5 to 2 miles of road. So we're continuing with our plan, and then next year, our short list includes Mill Lane, Smith Place, piece of Cushing Road near Smith, Margin, Atlantic, Elm Street. Hopefully get some decision points on that, and Beechwood Street, a piece of Beechwood Street that's getting dug up. So, we're going to continue it's a dynamic plan. We're going to, funding, the topic of funding, we'll work through that, but we're continuing with our roughly 2 miles of road per year. And if we decide to make it bigger, we can make it bigger, or if we need to truncate it for some reason, we'll do that.
Gene?
So just to open up the discussion on Corey's point, I think maybe we could find a compromise in the middle, where my biggest concern is we have to give residents a year notice before we begin opening up sidewalks and streets near them. And so I want to make sure we at least get to the next year in time in order to give them that requisite notice and make those highest priority decisions like as soon as possible. But I have more openness to the longer, 2 to 5 years, because my concern is whether we can make that at least year cutoff to get some real work started next summer, next spring, with the timelines that we need to with residents, both as to sidewalks and roads. And that we feed that into the 10-year capital plan, at least for this upcoming year, so we know how much. My only concern with the committee is I worry that will drag that out, and that, again, I have more openness to the 2 to 5 year because we'll have more time to plan. It's just this upcoming year that I'm concerned about realistically.
Brian?
So just on that note, and we send out letters a year in advance of our, so the letters for those streets I just named will be going out shortly. It'll be duplicated. We've already sent out Margin Street and Elm Street in the hopes that we would be paving it this year. That happened last year. So those will get regurgitated and sent out to the residents. But again, that notice will go out, and if we decide to include any additional streets, if we get if we want to, then we could add those letters. But it's typical.
Remind me of the list, Brian. It's Elm, Margin,
so
Beechwood,
Mill Lane, Smith Place, Cushing Road, the piece between Pleasant Street and Smith Place, Atlantic Avenue from Margin Street to Whitehead, and then Margin Street in its entirety, and then Elm Street and Beechwood Street from King Street to Mill Lane.
And is this sidewalks and roads, or is there no distinction? If you're cutting it, you're cutting into it, and the work has to be done ahead of time regardless.
I'm sorry. So we're going to get estimates on the sidewalks, and we'll decide The roads for sure, but the sidewalks,
Where they exist.
where they
Like,
exist.
there's
yeah.
none on Atlantic in that stretch that you're talking about.
Right, I'm thinking, so really you have a piece on Margin, piece on Elm Street, Beechwood Street for sure. And then a little bit on Cushing.
So the question is whether we want to add to that right now. Assuming we're going to proceed with all the rest.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty good list. And then our new contract is going to be bid. I think bids are due in late December. So we'll be able to get new estimates on what this is going to cost, and we'll, you know, it gives us enough time for annual town meeting if we want to increase our road budgets or, you know, change however we need to.
But again, if we want to add a street, let's say, because we have concerns about the state of the sidewalk, we really should be doing that now to give residents enough time to get whatever utility or construction they need
Right,
done.
Right, if
sooner
there was
than
a, you know, if you look at the 10-year forecast and there's a street you wanted to add to it, yeah, and if we wanted to, we'd need to send out those letters in the next few weeks.
Okay.
And just to for the general public, you know, if your street is getting paved, you get the letter and it basically says, you know, if you have any utility work or business in the street, whether it's a new water service or a gas service conversion, you know, please notify us and, you know, schedule that work with National Grid or the water or sewer company, whatever it might be. And that way you get that done before we get in there and pave it. Once we pave it, we have a 10-year protection plan on it, where it's a 5-year strict moratorium. You can't open the street. And then from years 6 to 10, it's a fee to open the street. So that's why we implore everyone to get their utility work done first.
Any other, Paul?
That's still last one for Brian. Brian, so some of the roads, again, going back to prioritization. So my personal thing is to see the roads that have the most visibility, you know, and the ones obviously the ones that are in the worst condition, but the ones that are the most used. Like, how do you bump them up? Like you said, mention a road. Like I would put Jerusalem on there. Obviously, the main street with the trees, you have that on the agenda. I see. But Jerusalem walking, like just pedestrian access, because we do have a sidewalk there, and maybe creating where you can't blast ledge, a line to the beach, just something that's going to draw people down, you know, and you know, create at least a sense of comfort because it's a busy road.
Yeah, so you're talking about creating a new sidewalk on a highly pedestrian used road, right?
Not so much. Jerusalem has, if I'm not mistaken, on the lower end going towards like Victoria Sub Shop. Not up on the higher end. I'm talking about going from this, you know, the 7-Elevens, the sub shops, walking down to Rocky Beach. There is an existing sidewalk. I know that because I planted some signs there. But you know, then we get down to the ledge where the old house used to sit up on top. But perhaps maybe a, you know, fluorescent, or how you guys paint when you paint the streets, when you paint the lines. Because I know we can't blast there, but it's just something for ease of access, because I see a lot of pedestrians, but that is broken down. And again, I'm just looking towards, you know, town attractiveness, where people do some high density zones where people like to walk. And there are a lot of people on the lower portion. I'm not talking about the upper half.
Yeah, I know what you mean. So yeah, it does go from Hull Street 228 to like right around 670 Jerusalem. So where it takes a corner by Straits Pond, and then there's no sidewalk, and you have residents on both sides of the street. And I think, you know, a lot of the I haven't looked at the layout recently, but a lot of the walls and plantings and kind of people's front yards are right near the road front in that section as you get closer to Rocky Beach. So the challenge there would be, like you said, the layout. You know, paint is cheap, but I don't know, you know, how effective or safe it is to you know, you have bike path paint, but you know, a pedestrian path in the road layout might be tough. And then that ledge outcropping by, you know, near the 500 Jerusalem Road, that one would need some engineering to navigate through there. And there is some town land on the Straits Pond side. Maybe we could figure out some kind of go around. I'm not sure, But that would take some engineering, as you get closer to Rocky Beach on that section of Jerusalem Road.
That's where I thought, because the ledge you can't touch anymore that's where again, I'm not an engineer, so I was just throwing that out there. Like a walk around, or some sort of, as you said, painted path. Just so vehicles were aware of it and they took necessary precautions. Not always, but hopefully.
Right.
Corey, you said,
Yep. Yeah. New hand. What I was going to say is, while I also am hesitant about the cost, I think we've got some flexibility. If we had issues with Chapter 90 funding, we could obviously, use ARPA or something. So I would just make the motion that we approve the proposal for the 28.5, or the select board endorses the proposal for the tech engineering group to do the sidewalk survey.
we have a second. We don't have a second. One of the, Gene?
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. I seconded.
Oh, you seconded. Okay. We've had a motion made and seconded. Paul?
I apologize. I was going to second. I had to mute too. Sorry,
Okay.
Corey.
So we have a second and a third. So I think we know how this vote is going to go, but is there any further discussion? We've had a motion seconded to approve the funding for the sidewalks. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I call the vote. Paul Grady,
Paul Grady, aye.
Jean,
Jean Haley Dipple.
Corey,
Corey Evans, aye.
Jack Creighton, aye. Motion carries unanimously 4-0, one member absent. Okay. Any other? Another thing that Corey brought up, which before we move on, we might want to consider the idea of a committee or to kind of oversee this. One suggestion, we could have a committee. I think Gene has expressed concerns of getting it done quickly, and I think Brian has that same. I'm wondering whether having a subcommittee of the select board with the understanding that they would consult with various members of the community, and that might be, I'm just saying it might be more expeditious to get it done that way. So any thoughts on that?
Mr. Creighton, if I may, I think we're probably on the same page largely. If it's okay with you, what I'd recommend is a subcommittee of myself and member Healy to review the concerns and come back to the select board next meeting with a recommendation. We can put it on the agenda for the committee and a vote and a discussion. But that way we can figure out what the challenges are.
Well, I think we probably want to do that. Gene, what was your thought on that? And I also know that Paul was interested, and I don't think, and I know I'm not. I mean, I could be, but I have a lot on my plate. Anyway, discussion on that, or Gene or Paul, do you weigh in or?
I'm open to a subcommittee so long as we can get Brian the information he needs if we're going to add any additional sidewalks in time, which maybe can be a part of our immediate charge to ourselves. Because the way I understand it is the select board ultimately approves, subject to funding, the road and paving schedule. And so, whatever committee we decide, it would come back to the select board for the ultimate approval. And then we would have to figure out how to fund that, at least in, the initial years, in collaboration with other town committees. So that's how I envision that. Is that what you were thinking, Corey?
No, I wouldn't even go that far down the line. Just purely to just compare notes and come back next meeting with a recommendation for the next step forward. And if that's, subcommittee or full committee, whatever, let's, no policy decisions whatsoever, just a recommendation for next steps. So it's just a 2-week sprint on that one topic.
I'm fine with that.
You
Looks
know,
like Brian wants to be part of it.
well, of course he's part of it. He doesn't know yet, but we don't have to tell him now. We'll
Yeah.
wait.
De facto. I just wanted to mention, so, and not our road layout, but Route 3A, just quickly. So the DOT, it's been a long time coming. We've gone through the tip process on the south side of Route 3A from a few hundred feet in Situate, all the way up past Beechwood Street. That's been designed, and the bid is going out in December of 2023. So that's the construction timeframe or the beginning of that project. A year from this December, it'll go out to bid. And we've also been working with TDC.
Brian, excuse me. Can we get this procedural thing out of the way first? Because I think we're,
I don't want to belabor.
yeah. We have, Corey's and Jean suggest a kind of subcommittee for 2 weeks or however they want. Is that something that you're making a motion, Corey?
No such motion. I would just, if the board's okay with us, just bring a recommendation back.
Yeah. I agree. I just wanted to get that.
Just put on the put it on the agenda for next meeting. That way we have a deadline, and we'll get it done.
Yeah, I think that we should be careful as a board of on some of these things, overly formalizing things and just say, hey, 2 of us have come back. But is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah, and why don't I suggest, I think I can do it, but if my work schedule precludes me from doing so, Paul, if you wouldn't mind stepping in.
I'm fine with that.
I think I should be fine, but Paul and I can tag team with Corey as long as we don't have a quorum.
Right. Okay. So everybody's set with that. Sorry to interrupt, Brian, but I thought we ought to clarify that.
No, I don't want to belabor the conversation. I just want to say Route 3A will include probably with that subcommittee. South section's designed going out. North section, we're trying to get on the tip. And that was it. Trying to get a sidewalk from the one we just built on Sawyer Street, connecting all the way to the T. So.
Okay.
And Brian, just to clarify, the state's funding that, right?
So that's what we need to talk about. The state would like us to advance the design to a point where it's bid ready, and then they'll take it over. So it may be, maybe we try to work with our Congress folks to get some funding.
Yeah. Paul?
Brian, just a clarification for any people in the audience. Could we just throw down what is happening on 3A between John's Auto Body and Stop and Shop? The reason I'm asking, so people that are listening tonight, I know there's something behind it, and but you're I'm getting people hitting. It's like being in the Waltons.
Yeah, so it's that was not a town project. That was a that was a sewer connection for the development at for the building at the Stop and Shop Plaza. I know the road, the trench patch is in tough condition. They will be paving that in the next couple of weeks, so it'll be a smooth street again. And then next, after a season of settlement, potentially they come back in the spring and the DOT is requiring to do a super pave through that area. So it'll be even better. But that was a sewer line that was run from 390 CJC down to Tupelo Road where the sewer pump station is and conveys it over to the treatment plant.
Thanks, Brian.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does this cover the roads paving plan and funding discussion to the satisfaction of the board? Okay, everybody's fine. Okay, do we have a update on the, Brian, thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Very good. Do we have an update on the website? And who would like to do that? Would that be Michelle or Tracy or?
Justin and Megan are here. One moment.
Oh, they are. Okay.
So that's it on the roads. I missed that.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Can everybody hear me? Wonderful. Give me one moment. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Oh, Trace, would you just help me share my screen real quick? Thank you. All right. All right, perfect. Good evening, Select Board members. Over the last year and a half, the town of Cohasset has really been working diligently on refreshing cohassetma.org, the town's website. It's a process that really began long before I arrived here. So I first like to thank the folks who have really been working behind the scenes for the last several years, including Megan James, who is on with me tonight. The way I really like to describe this new refreshed website is really we really put in some new drywall and we applied some new wallpaper to the website. The goal was really to make the site easier to access, navigate, easier to search. This newly refreshed website went live probably about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago. It's currently fully functional and fully operational. And I just want to say that to the public as well, please understand that while the look of the website is different, the content is ever changing, and we will continue to monitor the website, update the website daily, and make sure that it continues to be fully functioning. I'm always open to questions or comments. I've met many people who have spoken to me about the website over the last several months that I've been here, and I've really appreciated the comments that I've gotten from both the select board and from the town as well. Really fast here, I just want to run through some of what we have updated here with this newly refreshed website, and I'll just rattle off some things. Increased search optimization, updated photos, updated web pages, some completely redesigned, updated graphic links, quick links, redesigned wallpaper, made the site hopefully easier to navigate, easier to search, updated events, resources, meetings, calendar. We've also successfully found a workaround to reduce the number of clicks needed to access agendas. We just need to train folks on how to do that, and that's going to kind of be the next step over the coming weeks. We've also updated the front page of the website with the select board and town manager photos. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, we've updated the main navigation and the sub navigation bars. So that's just some of the work that we've been doing. And I will hand it over to Megan to see if she has anything else that she'd like to say before we hand it back to the board.
Thanks, Justin. I think the only thing I want to emphasize is the search optimization. So what we needed to do to complete that is we had to go to every single page that we had and add tags so that when we do put in search terms, that it'll pull up certain pages. So we have a lot of pages. So we've been doing that actively. I do believe that there's some pages that need some additional tags. And also, you know, again, that's kind of an ever-changing thing where we can continue to add tags as needed when, you know, certain departments become relevant under other pretenses and things like that. So I think that was a big one. We also went through and got rid of a lot of old content that, you know, wasn't updated or didn't make sense anymore. And we moved some pages around in content to places that we felt made a little bit more sense. So that was kind of the more behind the scenes work that you don't see as much. You're seeing more of kind of the new buttons and the pictures and the flash, but the functionality has improved as well.
Happy to take some questions or comments.
Justin, could you put the full screen of all the board members up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I didn't know. Yep. I'm
Yep.
taking it down right now.
Oh, Corey, is your hand up? New?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Just, I mean, I brought this up kind of previously, and I think unfortunately it's the confusion still exists where we have Newsblog and Latest News, and they're totally different silos. So if you're on the website and you're searching for your latest news, you've got all this stuff, but then we've got the news portal, which is different stuff. It'd be helpful if, you know, we just figured out kind of which is the news and which is something else, and how, just be consistent in how we use those things, because we are sending residents to kind of two different places with two different sets of information. The other thing is we can probably update now that we've got the new style, try to get the header of the news blog to more look like the new style of the new website, just so that they're a little more consistent, because you should be able to, it's just a WordPress site. It's easy to customize. So that way, like the links on top kind of look the same. It doesn't, people don't get lost. Sometimes when that top banner changes locations, as people are in the same thing, they get lost because something was there and now it's gone. And they want to get back to where they were. So those are my two comments, just on the news and the top banner. Thanks, guys.
Very good.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Jean and then Paul.
Thank you both for your work on what we see and what we don't see. I will confess it took me a little bit of a while to figure out where, for example, the videos are. And so I think that there might be some searching we all have to get used to. But I think that this looks like it has the start to being a great improvement. I think I would echo Corey's feedback on the news portal. It strikes me this is just a web page within our website, and we should treat it like that and have it act as such, rather than having two seemingly separate government landing pages. So that's my first comment. The second one relates to the CRM, the customer relationship management service. That was a really critical function and added value, I think, for our residents. And so I'd love to hear an update on that too, please. So thank you both. I really appreciate your work on this.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Vice Chair. We are actually working on an implementation plan with Town Manager Senior. Over the last, I'd say, week and a half, we sat down with Town Manager Senior, Megan and I, along with GoGov, which is the CRM platform that we are currently looking at. We took an in-depth demo, and then we also, Chris and I also spoke with another town / city in the Northeast that uses this platform, because we really wanted to see how other towns use it and how other cities use it and what they think of it. We recently scheduled that. We had that probably about 5-6 days ago. They had some great reviews to tell us about how they used it. They've been using it since 2012. It was a township in New Jersey. And so kind of the next steps for that is Chris and I and Megan were working on an implementation plan. So I have high hopes that this will hopefully be up and running at some point within the next few months, if we decide to go with this platform. Megan, is that correct?
Yeah, if I could add to that as well. So regarding process of implementation, we really want to make sure that the staff is trained and that we're consistently using it internally well before we open it up to the public, because we want to make sure that all of our systems are in place so that when people do start giving requests and putting in information, that everybody's already in place to use the system, and that it flows the way that it should, so that customer service doesn't drop during the time that we implement it. We want it to our customer service to be better, and we don't want there to be an issue. So we'll be using it internally for a couple months, even before that, before it launches to the public.
Thank you. Paul?
First off, Megan, Justin, you guys are doing a yeoman's job getting it out there. I'd like to see you get more credit. And I understand with the CRM portion that we'd be the first town in Massachusetts start implementing. Am I mistaken in that?
No, you are correct.
Then I think those are things you want to get out there. I was just kind of interested in the page more along the line, if that falls into the CRM, where we do want to start getting out town surveys, getting town consensus, getting opinions. So the town people at large can help us run this town. Now, would that be part of the CRM? Ed, you can educate me on that. So, or would that be part of maybe setting up something on the new webpage, inviting their participation? Do you see what I'm getting at?
I do. Are you referring to more of a notice and comment form that the vice
Notice
chair
and
has
comment,
brought up?
so if, say the vice chair has something she wanted to put out, it goes on to that. We start getting, or something that came from a meeting, or someone was interested in something from this meeting. Is there an area that they can comment on, look into, start looking at, say, roads and sidewalks, say harbor, say anything along those lines. That's the stuff that's important, because we want the town to be able to be involved in their town. See what I'm getting at?
I do. So, and Megan,
Something
correct me if I'm wrong, but
transparent and easy to use. That's,
yes.
to use a layman's terms.
So the CRM platform is going to be that platform, that program where folks, if they have an issue.
Justin, I just want to clarify
Yes,
for
sir.
everybody who's listening. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. And that's a concept that you relate to your customers. In this case, we are the town relating to its tax-paying citizens. So that's what CRM is. It's the interface. I just wanted to clarify that for the people at home. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Mr. Grady, that CRM platform is going to allow people, if they see a pothole, if they have an issue, to hopefully go into that platform, and it will look almost identical to the town website. We'll match it. And if they have an issue, they can go through that platform, and kind of the notice and comment section, which we're also working on, that would be a separate piece. And our CIO in the technology department, they're actually working on some forms as well for the notice and comment section. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so it'll all be under one under the main webpage, Justin. That's what I'm getting at. So so it's easy accessibility, simple to use. I mean, you guys, the board, right now what you've done looks fantastic. So thank you.
Absolutely. It will be right on the front page, that CRM platform, and you won't even know that you are going to another page, if that makes sense,
Okay.
when you're using that platform.
Thank you.
Jane?
So just to piggyback off of what Paul's saying, we could, for example, put out a 5-year paving schedule and request that residents provide notice on that schedule through the CRM. And then, we could get their feedback in a report that we receive and we review and we take in. That's what the CRM will enable us to do, in addition to, for example, I have a pothole and I need help on my street here, and here. It also enables us to get more structured public feedback, so we can invite people to provide it that way. I guess my next question is, when do you anticipate making a decision? And is this, does the CRM come with additional funds that you may need, including through upcoming, town meeting? Are you working through that aspect? And this may be a question for Michelle or Chris, but should we be expecting to see something sooner rather than later about the cost of procuring a CRM system?
So that's something that I would have to just talk with Mr. Senior when he gets back this week, and I can get back to you on that. We do have a proposed quote right now, and the great thing about the CRM platform is if we decide to go with a proposed quote, which I just want to go over with Mr. Senior, and I'm happy to bring it to the board as well. There are some great add-ons to that CRM platform as well, which is really cool. For instance, so we've got the CRM platform. There's also, for instance, a citizen notification piece. If we wanted to use that as well, that would be an add-on that would allow us to send out all types of citizen notifications, similar to, let's say, a code red. So there are several different add-ons to that platform that we could utilize if we decide that we like the platform that we go with, and it can be added at any point. It's very easy to integrate.
Okay.
So I just don't have the quote in front of me right now.
We'll need to follow up on the logistics and funding specifics in the near future.
Absolutely. And I'm happy to get that information for you.
Any other questions or comments from the board? By the way, you know, Justin and Megan, you've done very, very good work. This is very important. And thank you. So we are running a little bit ahead of schedule. And our next item on the agenda is the navigation bylaw. And I think there's a lot of interest in that. So I don't want to inadvertently start that even 5 minutes early. So with the permission of the board, oh, Paul.
Since we have a minute, can I backtrack? Am I allowed to the
Sure.
roads and sidewalks subcommittee that we're looking at?
Yes.
Would we be allowed, and I'll throw Corey on this too, to have a citizens at large? Corey, did you envision that?
So, well, actually, that's exactly kind of the point that I've been trying to make, and Paul, you've kind of put it together perfectly, which is that I want to get citizens at large involved, right? I want to get, you know, I think I had 7 or 9 people from the community, from different areas of the community involved in this. So that's my intention, is to get citizens at large involved.
Reason being, I'll be honest with you, I got an email right after the meeting. I've already got one who wants to get involved. So
I've got probably, you know, 2 dozen people that have emailed me over the last 2 years that are like, I want to be involved. So I'm just trying to enable them to have a path to use their energy.
So how do we direct them into volunteer? Who would they want to volunteer to?
So the process that I'm recommending, or I'm suggesting, is I present the committee charge after Gene and myself just talk about it and redline a few things if we need to. Bring it to the board next meeting. We charge the committee, then we work with Justin, we put out a public call for those who want to volunteer to serve on the community. We reach out to all the people that have reached out to us, and we put some people to work.
Okay.
So I think procedurally that works, having a kind of informal subcommittee of the board to think about further things. And then if we get a charge, then we decide what it does, and then it would be formalized. In the meantime, people are free to speak with whomever they want, to pick up information, find out who's interested, without having to have a formal meeting and a quorum. So this is very informal. There's no committee being created this evening, no committee being charged. Just to informally look out, but I want to stress that no committee is being created. Committees can only be created by the select board specifically, and then we go through that whole process. Paul, that's a very good point to clarify, and good thinking it through, Corey, as well. We still have 5 minutes. I want to alert the board on something under the 48 hour. Apparently, when the early voting law was put into effect, if a town wants to modify the early voting to conform with their staffing requirements, that it has to be done prior to our next board meeting. So our town clerk notified us this morning that she has a minor, at least I looked at it, and Vice Chair DePaul has looked at it, fairly minor thing. So that will be at the end of the meeting. So anybody who's watching right now who's concerned about that, you may want to wait till the end of the meeting when we discuss that. But I think we should let people know. And with that, I think we can move on to the proposed navigation bylaw. And I want to clarify, for the sake of brevity, what exactly this discussion will be about. It is not to consider the navigation bylaw. It is not to hear testimony on it. It is not to have our town council give us a legal opinion on it. She's not available tonight anyway. This is to alert the select board of some developments that are going on, and to alert the community, and also to see if the select board is in favor of having a large community-wide meeting, not a hearing before the select board, but an open community hearing. What has happened is there is a proposal to extend some kind of legal jurisdiction over Situate waters, which is where a lot of our boating takes place. There was, in 1953, there was some legislation which envisioned that. This has been before the Harbor Committee, and there are about 20 plus participants in that. It's also been looked at by the Harbor Governance Committee, which is a bylaw committee of the Harbor Committee. They recommended moving forward on this. In the hearing, I see your hand, Corey. In the hearing, which I attended, I made it very clear that, in my opinion, that this would require a broad-based community outreach, public meetings, opportunities for everybody to weigh in. So that's kind of where we are on this. And the one question that I think would be helpful is, does the select board think it's appropriate to have a large public meeting to weigh in on that? And at that public meeting, whomever the select board members feel should participate, but or testify, I would suggest at the minimum, town council, chairs of the Harbor Committee, chairs or the Harbor, somebody from the Harbor Committee. Certainly, I've spoken to the chair of governance, Lisa Hewitt, and anybody else who wishes to speak. So that being said, who had their hand up that went away? Somebody had their hand up and went away.
Sorry. No, I did. I just, I didn't know if we had a presentation from staff or somebody about
No,
the,
we don't.
the meetings or what's coming up. Okay. We don't have dates yet?
No, we don't have dates because the select board hasn't decided if they want to do that or not. I'm bringing it to the attention of the select board to gain guidance from the select board as to what the select board wants to do.
I think
What
that
is the
absolutely
select-
makes sense. No, I
What?
think a public, getting a process and getting public meetings, this is obviously something that's core to our community. And basically everyone takes advantage of, it affects our harbor. So I think it's great.
Other comments? Paul, did I see your hand up? Okay. Jane?
Yeah, I think we typically do meetings on proposed warrant articles. I think given the interest surrounding this one, it probably makes sense to have it be a separate meeting. And that's really what we're talking about, because it seemed like, frankly, a lot to try to wedge into an existing select board meeting, particularly as we come upon the warrant article season. And so I think a part of this too is just alerting the select board and the public that we will likely have to find a time in the near future that is not within the current select board schedule in order to accommodate having a meeting on this.
Paul?
I would agree with Gene on that, because I think all sides given, they need a chance to be heard. So I do think that the town should weigh in and people should have an opportunity.
Okay. Well, I think it's a good idea. As chair, I've been watching this, have spent attending a lot of meetings, but it became very apparent that before we went forward, that this required the select board's knowledge and approving whether they felt we should go forward on that. So, which is why this is on the agenda. Does anybody have other comments about the meeting? And if not, chair would entertain a motion.
You mean make a motion to bring it to public meeting
Yeah,
on the bylaw?
on the bylaw.
I'd make that motion, and Corey, you correct me if I don't use the right verbiage, but by all means. So I would make a motion to carry this over to a public meeting, the proposed bylaw act for the discussion we were going to have tonight. And again, I apologize if my verbiage is, thanks, Corey, let it go.
Well,
And
do you
I'll
want me to try?
second-
I was going to say,
Yeah, why don't you do it and I'll second it. How's
all right.
that?
How about the motion is the select board endorses the proposed process to have a scheduled public meeting regarding the proposed navigation bylaw.
I would second it.
We have a motion made and second on to have a public meeting on the navigation bylaw. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I call for the vote. Corey,
Corey Evans, aye.
Jean,
Jean Haley Dippledy.
Paul,
Paul Grady, aye.
Jack Creighton, aye. The motion carries unanimously, 4 in favor and 1 absent. Okay. Moving on, we have a proposed local initiative for 802 Jerusalem Road. It's in the packet. Did everybody have a chance to see it? And I see Affordable Housing, Paul Kearse is here. Would you like to speak to it, Paul? Kearse.
Well, I'm here to support the North Main Street proposal. I believe he's going to be on to make a proposal in front of the select board.
No, he is not.
Okay, so we thought he was going to be on tonight. We had our Affordable Housing Steering Committee meeting today, specific to support the North Main Street project. So I know he was going to be in front of the select board to make his proposal. Has he moved forward with that with the select board, or?
He has not. He may have spoken to Chris about that, but we didn't get anything. We're aware of that, but we don't at this point. Jean?
So Paul, thanks. We were watching your agenda and we realized that, you were sort of reorganizing and possibly making some suggestions to us too about committee membership.
Correct.
And so it's great that you're here now. I think what we wanted to do was, frankly, set up a time so we could all be there, including your committee, whatever the new organization was, in tandem with the developer, and also alert the public if they're interested, because it's a substantial but potentially positive development. In the interim, we asked the town to do some initial diligence as well, and we're still waiting for those results. And so I think this is just to alert the public that this is the process and that we plan on having that substantive presentation from the developer, really, waiting for you to finish your process in terms of reorganizing, and still waiting to hear a little bit on the diligence side from the town as well. And then I think we can work with you in terms of a mutually convenient time.
Okay, terrific. Yeah, we had a lot of turnover or some turnover on the board. We also submitted Rob Jeffers, our prior chair, submitted a letter to the select board looking to reduce our board from 7 to 5. We haven't heard back from the board yet on that. So if we need to get back on the agenda, let me know so we can do that. We did have our meeting today, and we did have a quorum, and so we took a vote. So I am the chairman of the Affordable Housing Steering Committee,
Okay.
and Mary is now the vice chair. So we'll be moving forward with our agenda. We meet once a month, and we look forward to hopefully getting in front of you to see about reconstructing our committee from 7 people down to 5. We did have a couple of questions for the board on some of our members are unsure of where they stand. We had a position out of the 7, one of them was for planning board to be on that board. And then, so they obviously have a lot of time constraints about being on all these other committees. So we had suggested, changing some of those. And we have Lauren Lind as our kind of our ex officio that she attends all of our meetings, so we get the planning board updates anyway from her. So that would be fine if we did that. And so what I'll do is I'll reconstruct a letter back to the select board with our recommendations for how the committee should be structured. One of the questions we had was one of our members is a position from the master planning group. So we need to define if she's going to be a resident member or still master planning. We don't know where master planning stands at the moment.
Excuse me, Paul. Before we get too far into
Sure.
this, because it's not technically on the agenda, and I don't want to be overly legalistic,
Okay.
and we will do these things, and it is very interesting to hear them. But can you give an overview of kind of the broad strokes of what this 802 North Main Street is about? I mean, obviously people say, what's going on? Is it like 100 units or whatever? Could you just clarify as to exactly where it is and the scale and the affordable component, number of units, et cetera?
Sure. This kind of ties in. I think we've all heard about what the MBTA put in place for the town, having to have a crazy number of units imposed on the town. The planning board is going to be having public meetings one a month, starting in October and going through November and December to talk about exactly what is going to happen. They have an agenda now for public forum to talk about the housing that's required now under this new rule that has been imposed on the town. I think the number that the MBTA pushed on us was from 900 down to 600 units. That has to be in the bylaws to allow for some dense housing in place within a certain distance from the train station. And I think that Tom Callahan did a pretty good job relaying that to us today during our meeting. And so they're going to have a lot of public forum on what we need to do to address those issues. This particular property is at the end of North Main Street. Technically, it's 502 North Main Street. And the property has gone through the planning board. The renditions we've seen and the number of units we've seen is a minimum of 20 units, I believe. I'm not sure what the exact count is. And it fits pretty much on the property that's there. And it obviously is within the range of the train station. It's basically directly across the street from the train station. So all those units would be rental units, so they would all count towards affordable housing. So at minimum, there would be 20 units that would count towards our housing stock. Right now, we're basically safe from the housing that we are right now, based on 390 CJC, which everyone knows is Stop and Shop. Those units should be coming online here pretty soon. And so that's already been accounted for in where we are with 40B. But of course, the more homes we build in town, it's that chase for our committee to provide more housing. So the more homes we build, we still have to get that percentage up for affordable housing. So we have right now in affordable housing, we have a couple of developments. As you know, the Harbor Project has come on board. They provided 4 affordable housing units as part of their requirement. So those are in place. And we have CJC, which I think is 20 units that count towards affordable housing. The other property that we have is 1 Pleasant Street. There's going to be 14 units there that count towards affordable housing. And we have the 808 Jerusalem Road, which is going to be a 2-family home that Habitat is going to be putting in for us. That's going to take a little bit longer, probably about a year or 2 before we see some real activity on that property. And there's a couple other small projects that we're looking at around town as well.
Okay, Paul? And then Corey.
So, Mr. Kears, if I'm not mistaken, we've reached our quota as to what we need to have for affordable housing. Am I incorrect in that? Sounds to me like we're ahead of the game. If I remember correctly, we were behind in 10. And I'm not, again, I commend this committee, incredibly so.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at hard numbers, that's all.
right. So we're not ahead of the game. If anything, we're even. I think we're at our 10%. We are under safe harbor, so we're good as far as that's concerned. But every time they build a home in Cohasset, we're going to start to drop again. So
That's a good point.
I mean,
Thank
they're going to in the harbor project. They're adding I don't know what it is, 20 condos. So that's going to add 20 homes right out of the gate. And we have 4 units credited towards that property, but as we continue to build in Cohasset, we're always going to be chasing that 10%.
No, I don't disagree with you. I was just looking for numbers. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Corey.
Yeah, just has the planning board approved this project, or where is it at the planning board stage? Because it's kind of not our lane typically. I mean,
Yeah, he's already been through the planning board. I can't speak for the planning board, but
sorry, I was asking. My apologies, Paul. I wasn't asking, putting you on the spot. I was asking generally for town staff or the chair if the planning board has approved this yet.
Michelle?
No.
I'm sorry,
have
I
not-
don't have an answer for that.
We have
Okay.
not received any official, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
We have
I'm
not
just
received any official notification from planning board it's been approved.
okay. Yeah, because I think that's kind of where I'd love to hear what the planning board votes on this to understand kind of what we should do. One thing that just relates to other stuff is it looks like on the plans there's some sort of sidewalk. North Main Street is a great place for sidewalks, and if we can turn one set of property into multiples, like Brian was saying, that benefits us. So I guess we should interface with the planning board to see kind of what their requirements are for the project and where they are with it. Blah blah blah. Blah. Thanks.
So,
Jane,
yeah, so this would be a local initiative project, which once we have the more full presentation from Lauren Lind, would require the select board to weigh in. And I have similar questions on the planning front, which is why I want to make sure that we batten the hatches down on that front before we, advance too far on our end and make sure that it's ready for us. And it strikes me that it probably is, but Lauren is out, I think, right now. And so we just have to wait a little bit, but we did want to get it on the calendar for all of us, select and the Affordable Housing Committee to prepare. And the question of the sidewalk too along North Main Street and in that stretch where, we have if we put a substantial amount of apartments there, I think is certainly going to be something that we need to talk more about it at the next meeting when we substantively discuss this.
I can tell you, separate from my position, they never completed the sidewalk from, Forest and Lower King to the train station. For whatever reason, I don't know what the history is on that, but I can tell you that a lot of people that walk that and ride their bikes through there, it's a challenge.
Mr. Chair, we do have somebody in the audience if you're ready for public.
Yeah.
comment.
who said,
We have a microphone. I
bringing them
can't,
on board?
I can't do that. So.
Hello?
Oh,
Hello,
Mr. Ahern, Mike Ahern is here, the developer. Speak.
Yes, I am. I just wanted to be answer any questions you might have for me.
Yeah, Mike, do you have the ability to show your picture? And the reason has to do with the technicality in the open meeting law. If we don't see you, some interpretations are that you're not really there. No offense. If you,
He's rejoining as a panelist. He was just as an attendee. So I just promoted him. Just give it 1 minute.
So I think he can address your issues if he's been in front of the planning board as well.
Do you have me now?
There we go. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I was trying to link in right when you started, but for some reason it didn't go through. So I think I heard a question. You had a question about sidewalks or something, and that's all I got before I got cut off.
Well, why don't you give us an overview of your project, size, height, number of units, how it lays out on the land? And not completely what you did at planning, but just, not just for the select board, but people who are watching at home.
I haven't gone to planning because this is a local initiative project, so it needs to go to select board before it goes to planning.
Okay,
All right. So I have not gone to planning, but it's a 20-unit project, all 2 bedrooms. It would be 100% rental, so it would count 100%. All 20 would count for the affordable initiative for the town, and they count to 10%. In the each one would have 2 parking spaces, and it's a 2.5-story dormer cape style building. It's in very early in the planning stages, working with Lauren in the local initiative. This, I don't know if you talked about this yet, but that comes on the heels of the MBTA decision about developing within walking distance of the train station, and their local initiative under Chapter 40A, subparagraph 3A, which is, I think, 15 homes per acre. We're not able to meet that, unfortunately, but we were able to get 20 on the lot in the area of no disturbance. I mean, where we're in an area that we're not disturbing that 50-foot setback.
that's the conservation setback.
It is conservation setback, yes.
Okay, but so you will have to go before Concom because you're within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Yeah, I believe, and again, I'm not a Chapter 40 specialist, but I'm leave that up to the engineers. I'm not really sure about that. We already had a Concom. So we already had a Concom on our previous project. So our conservation lines have already been delineated on where we can build and where we can't.
Well, this isn't the time to do that. So you're bringing it formally before the select board.
Yeah, I believe Lauren said we had to go this route before we go to planning because it's an LIP.
Right, okay. Corey?
Yeah, so obviously, I think we all need to, hearing from Lauren on the LIP and what that means for us, I think that'd bring a lot of clarity. But on the agenda, it says update on process and schedule a public meeting. So I think we just probably take care of that. It sounds like we have to have a public meeting. We'll have Lauren there. We'll have the Affordable Housing Commission there. So let's just move on that.
Yeah, no, that's purpose of that. Frequently, when these come up, we bring it to the select board first so everybody knows. And then we move with the process, and Lauren is in here for that. And Jean?
Following from what Corey was saying, Mr. Ahern, as we continue to schedule the substantive meeting, is there a specific deadline that you're working towards that we should consider as we try to put you on the agenda for a new, formal presentation on this?
I believe we missed the last deadline, so I'm not aware of the new date.
Okay.
We've been working with Lauren for quite a while, and I don't know if there was a mix-up on getting in front of you guys, but yeah, we look forward to finding a date that we can do it. And I can't speak for her because I haven't been able to reach her, but she just sent me an email yesterday telling me the meeting was tonight.
Okay. So we'll try to get something on the calendar very shortly. That was the intent of trying to make sure that we had our Affordable Housing Committee ready and reorganized. And it's great that you're on, so that way we know that everyone seems to now be ready and able to move forward on the substantive presentation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Yeah, and hey, Mike, thank you very much.
Not a problem at all.
Okay, so
Thank you.
to the board, I guess we've there's kind of consensus we'll be following how this works out. I don't think we need it. Well, there's certainly no approval or motion to approve or whatever, but we wanted everybody to be aware of this. And any other comments from the select board? And Paul, thank you, Paul Kears. Thank you
Sure,
very
you're
much
welcome.
for coming.
Thank you. And just be mindful of the planning board having a public forum. I believe it'll be at the Wilcott Center. There'll be one meeting a month over the next couple of months. It's going to address this specific issue that the MBTA has kind of put upon us. Thank you.
Is there, Paul, as long as you're here, is there any mitigation? I mean, one of the things that is very common in a lot of development proposals is a concept of mitigation, which is the developer will have to provide some either funding or expansion of something to mitigate the impact on the overall community. And I don't know if that's included in this initiative or the MBTA housing initiative. Do you know that?
I don't know that at this time. Yeah,
Okay.
this is kind of a form for the planning board. The requirement is really on the zoning bylaws. It's not necessarily putting in dense apartments all over town. So the requirement by the MBTA is to have your bylaws be friendly for this type of development. So whether it's feasible, whether anyone can do it, whether we have land or not, is yet to be seen based on the requirements. So,
Well, that's interesting to know. And Corey?
Yeah, sorry. I was just going to ask on that topic of the transit oriented changes. We talked a few weeks ago about getting the planning department to present to us on the final ruling. So just ping the chair and vice chair to get that on the agenda as soon as possible, because I'd love to get a presentation on that.
Yeah, we've that's underway. And this is a good thing for the select board to consider whether in our overall things we need to be aware of. Do we need some kind of mitigation policy for development? But that's for discussion for another evening.
Well, I think that's a part of the zoning bylaw reform effort that's underway and should be addressed in that
Yeah.
context, including through those meetings. It's not a select board issue other than our goal to help generally reform the bylaws, because there's a
So-
law surrounding that.
Mhm.
I will leave you with this. I think, based off of this recent MBTA requirement, I think that you're going to see that there's somewhat of a priority to have the Affordable Housing Steering Committee reconstructed so that we could have the 5 members. So we can meet quite often and be able to have that quorum. And the trust is going to play a key role in all of this as well. So I think you're going to see a lot of more activity in the next 2 years between the Affordable Housing Steering Committee and the trust.
Okay, very good. Any other comments? Okay, thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we need to open the special town meeting warrant. We discussed it at our last meeting. Comments from the board? Michelle, what do we need to do here?
I think you just need to make a motion to open the special town meeting warrant, and then we can go over some of the proposed warrant articles.
Okay,
I move to open the special town meeting warrant for December 13th.
Second.
12th?
Wait, is 13th the
12th.
correct date? 12th, sorry. It's off by one day.
I'll second it.
we have a motion made and seconded to open the warrant for the 12th. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I call the vote. Jean,
Jean Haley Dippledy.
Corey,
Corey Evans, aye.
Paul,
Already aye.
Jack Creighton, aye. Motion carries 4 in favor, 1 member absent.
And
Michelle,
Mr.
oh,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chair, I was just going to remind that it starts the clock for 7 days. So September 27th is now the deadline for submission for citizens petitions.
Right. Thank you, Corey. So if anybody didn't hear that, if you're going to do a citizen's petition, you have 7 days to get it submitted. Otherwise, it's too late. The select board, however, can make initiatives up until the last. Michelle, what do we have? pending?
Sure. So, as we develop the content of the warrant, so we have our Article 1, which is amendments to fiscal 2023 operating budget, housekeeping item. We have our second article, which is bills from prior year. We're assessing those at this time. Due to the transition of our finance director and our treasurer, there may have been some bills that were not paid on time, so they will go before a special town meeting. We will appropriate money to the stabilization funds and allocate funds for one-time costs. We also have capital improvement projects in there. What we did ask is that anybody that has a capital improvement project that has to be funded at special town meeting, get it before the capital budget committee. September 29th is the deadline for that date. And they will hear requests as they come in. And then we have 9 articles before us at this time. Two are the creation of revolving funds. One would be for the public health program, and one would be for the opioid abatement fund. There's an article before us now for the wetlands protection bylaws, updating definitions of resource areas. We have another article for a public safety communications tower, and that involves Chapter 97 approval. We have the removal of the Cohasset Police Department from civil service. We have allocating funds from retained earnings of the water department to cover the cost of the Beechwood water main replacement. We also have the Verizon and AT&T contract extensions on the water tower. And then also another appropriation for the GAC treatment system at the water department. So those are the articles we have before us now. And we anticipate we'll have several more as the warrant remains open.
Any discussion on those articles? Corey?
Just one, and Michelle, my apologies if I missed it, but did you have a fund transfer for Cohasset Community Television in there? Don used to prepare that.
We don't.
Okay, yeah, we have to do that at town meeting. So thank you.
Any discussion on the new warrant articles? Okay,
I mean, I'm sure we'll have lots of discussion, but I think we have to see the drafts before we, devil's in the details, so we'll just wait and see. Thanks, Michelle.
okay. We have next on the agenda is discussion of hybrid or remote select board meetings. We're running a little bit ahead of time on that, but not too badly. The board think comfortable with moving ahead on that, or anybody dissent? Okay, the issue, of course, is do we want remote meetings? Do we want hybrid meetings? A hybrid meeting is where it is on Zoom and it is also in public, in person. So what are people's thoughts, pros and cons? Corey?
Yeah, I think, considering the pandemic is over and whatever that means. But I think basically every other committee is meeting in person now. I do think that the ability to have good discussions is better in person. We're learning that with schools. I don't think we go back to just in person. I think hybrid is the only way to go, where us or as many members as possible are in the room. Residents can come. I'm still getting messages from people that want to come to meetings. But we should always have the door open for those that want to participate remotely. So I would be strongly in favor of moving to the hybrid format, if you will.
Other comments? Paul?
I would basically piggyback off Corey's comment. I think you need some room for hybrid. Would I prefer in person all the time? Yes. But I realize that things have changed and you do want to have as much participation as possible so people can sign in, but primarily I think we should be meeting in person.
Jane?
I agree too. I have a strong preference for in-person, although I do think it's important to allow people the option to participate and view us remotely, including, for example, if, for example, a select board member has to work or vacation from afar, but they want to participate, I think allowing that hybrid option is important. I do think we have to find the right room to make sure that when we are on camera, using the hybrid option, that people can hear us, including, you know, through TV, to make sure. I know that there's been some concerns back and forth, and I just think we have to be mindful of that. And so we can and will plan appropriately on that one, including maybe looking for a smaller room that's not as cavernous as Wilcox Commons.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Yeah, I agree. In person is obviously the best way to do it. The advantages of the Zoom calls are, number one, people from afar can hear clearly what each select board member is saying. It also allows to put the documents and plans up on a screen so people can see. Even if we're at the meeting in person, if we had our laptop, it's frequently easier to read it off our laptop screen than the screen. It's also very difficult frequently to hear what select board members and speakers and public comments, you frequently cannot hear them. So there are some technical challenges, and having a cavernous room like at the Wilcox, you know, makes those even worse. So I think there's challenges, but I would certainly agree that we need to go back to our default in person with a Zoom remote backup. That's my feeling. So is there any other discussion on this matter? Everybody said their piece. Chair would entertain a motion.
I don't know if you need a motion, but I'm happy to make one. I think we move that the select board meetings for the foreseeable future, unless and until something changes with the pandemic, are hybrid. In person with the hybrid option.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded to have select board meetings going forward as hybrid. We've had a motion made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, roll call vote. Jean?
Jean Haley Dipple.
Corey?
Corey Evans, aye.
Paul?
Paul Grady, aye.
Jack Creighton, aye. Motion carries unanimously 4-0. One member absent. Okay. Approval of minutes for September 13th.
I move that the select board approves the minutes for September 13th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We've had a motion to made and seconded to approve the September 13th select board minutes. Hearing no further discussion, I call the roll. Jean?
Jean Haley Dipple.
Paul?
Paul Grady, aye.
Corey?
Corey Evans, aye.
Jack Creighton, aye. Motion carries unanimously. Four in favor, one absent. Okay. Town manager update. Michelle.
I don't have any updates for this evening.
All right, so then we'll have to go to the assistant town manager update. Sorry. Okay. So, all right, do we want to do the select board comments or the issue with early voting?
Let's do comments. Just run
Just
down the agenda. Yeah.
Select board comments. We'll let Paul go first.
Select board comment. I don't have any comments to make tonight.
All right. Corey.
Yeah, just wanted to remind everybody that our amazing Cohasset Department of Public Health has announced 4 clinic dates for the new or the bivalent vaccine, which the old vaccines are really no longer efficacious, I guess is the pronunciation. So you have to, not you have to, but if you want to get protect yourself for the upcoming spike, which will probably happen over the winter, you can get it right here in Cohasset. Thanks to everyone in that team that made that happen. That's all I got. Thank you.
Jane.
I wanted to thank everyone who helped during the virtual cleanup of Cohasset over the weekend. I do think that with some more effort, including from volunteers and the select board focusing on this, with some work, we could really try to improve the overall maintenance and cleanliness of our village and other sort of key popular areas. And I think we're trying to do that through our roads and sidewalks, but I take the point that there's more work to be done and we're all trying to help each other, make our town and keep our town beautiful. So thank you to all those who participated.
And before I re-recognize Paul, I have to say that we had a stalwart voice on social media pointing out the weeds downtown and really galvanized a lot of action. And that was Paul Grady. Thank you, Paul, for the good work you did on that. And your hand. Go ahead.
I just want to, I forgot, I wanted to acknowledge, I don't have her name, but the lady that wrote in about Doan Street and the weeds and everything like that, and the playground. Just want to let you know that at some point we could bring that up in the future in case that person's on there. But that area is just as important as any other in town. And so I don't know how the playground system works, but I wanted to let them know that we've seen that email and we're acknowledging it. That's all.
Thank you. Yeah, we might also note that they had issues with the gate down there, with the kids being able to get through the double gate, and that was fixed. I haven't checked recently if it's still fixed. Anyway, so let's go on to did everybody get in the packet the thing about early voting? Tracy, were you able to send it to everybody?
I put it up on the OneDrive. I believe I just sent it to you and Jean to see if it was going to go on the agenda.
All right, I have it up on, is that no. I'm looking at OneDrive and it's,
I don't see it on OneDrive either.
yeah, I don't
Is
either.
there something?
Would you
No,
mind
I
just
apologize.
telling everyone?
I can resend it to everybody. Yeah, I think I was waiting to hear back from you folks. But
Okay. All right. While you're reading it for the public, the Votes Act of 2022 that says that we may vote to reduce in-person voting hours at a public hearing. And this is done so if you have a very small number of votes, it's very difficult to keep the clerk's office staffed because you have to have a lot of backup people there every time they're voting. Cohasset has 6,400 voters. And the category that we could is week one, at least 50% of, wait a minute,
Okay, Jack, if you want,
Yeah.
I can give a quick update.
yeah, could you do that? Because I'm trying to speak and pull this up at the same time.
Yeah, so we just got a request from our town clerk. And under state law, the new state law, we have until October 2nd to essentially reduce the amount of time that Cohasset has for early voting. And the clerk is requesting that instead of having at least 50% of the regular business hours for the first week and then full regular business hours for the second week, to have at least 25% of regular business hours. And the clerk cannot attend tonight to help clarify any ambiguity. So I hope I'm stating this correctly based on the request that she just sent to us. But I believe that as she states in her memo, she's doing this, making this request because there was 50 people who voted early during the state primary. And so she's concerned that now with the November election coming up, where there's even more expanded early voting, that it will be hard for her from a staffing perspective, and also from a budgetary perspective, because when her budget was created last year, this is before the Early Voting Act was passed. And so there was not an accounting for, from the standpoint of paying the poll workers for this extra in-person voting time. And so if we decline to reduce the hours, which is up to the select board, we should just know that we may have to address a request from the clerk for additional funds in order to fund more poll worker time with respect to the early voting. And so I'm essentially reading from her memo and conveying the quick information I got from her in a brief conversation about this. I have an opinion. I'm happy to share it. I'm happy to defer to your question, Corey, if you want to ask.
No, I was going to opinionate, so please go ahead.
I appreciate that this is a law that has recently come into effect, and so it's thrown us for a bit of a loop in terms of staffing and the budgeting. That said, I'm frankly a little bit loath to do any restrictions on voting access, including early voting. I'd rather, look for a little bit extra in the budget to account for that, particularly where this upcoming November election is a big election. We have an open seat for the governor, for the attorney general of Massachusetts, for a number of key positions. And so I think it's important that we get into the habit from the start of maintaining and preserving maximum voter access. So that's my opinion. But I wanted to at least have the group be able to make that decision. If we didn't put it on the agenda, we would effectively make that position or make that decision. So.
Corey?
Yeah, I was just looking at the calendar. Yeah, I would love to have entertained this with the clerk here to kind of explain more, because it does seem like we still have the week, based on the readings of this, there's still a full week of early voting. This is really the week before. Is that, so this is for the 2 weeks before, not the week before. So I also am loath to reduce anything. However, there is a part of it that says this is the first year, and considering we only had 50 people vote in the week before, I'm not quite sure 2 weeks before with expanding, we've got expanding vote by mail, all those things. I'm not sure if the net is really going to be even one person. So I'm torn as well on this. So that's my thought. My apologies.
Paul?
I'd like to hear from the clerk for some of the reasons. I mean, me personally, I have no issue with reducing early voting whatsoever, but I would like to hear the clerk's rationale, taking into account what Jean and Corey have said. So that's where I stand with it, but I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah, this is a bit of a dilemma because we just got it and we can't get, well, we said if be difficult to schedule another meeting to have to really flesh it out because of the time constraints. And, we looked around and people's schedules. Can we do it? It would not be on a Tuesday. It might be different time. So it's kind of difficult. I would like to have more time. I thought the best thing to do was to bring it to the select board. Say what you could do. And Jean's point is that if we do nothing by default, it would be, she'd have to do that. Now, Paul, did you,
Did I what?
I don't know. I thought you raised your hand.
No.
No, okay. Tracy or Michelle, can you shed any light on this?
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to make a motion and kind of let the board vote if that kind of gets us out of our middle ground here.
Well, yeah, but I just want to see if Michelle and Tracy have any comments. If not, well, you can make a motion, but I'm not hearing it.
I
Oh,
don't think they do, Jack.
okay.
Okay, I guess, yeah, I will make a motion that we adopt the in-person early voting hours schedule as presented by the town clerk to us on September 19th, 2022.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it. That's reducing the hours? I apologize.
Yeah, correct. That's following her request to reduce early voting hours during the week before the week before the state primary on the weekdays only.
I'd second that.
We've had a motion made and seconded to approve the clerk's motion to reduce the hours as per her memo of September 19th, 2022. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I call the vote. Corey,
Sorry, I'm thinking. Can't do it. Corey Evans, nay. Sorry.
Jane,
Jean Haley Dipple, nay.
Paul?
Already, aye.
I am going to abstain because I was kind of had to decide whether to bring it to the 48 hours forward. And this whole thing made me very uncomfortable, so I'm going to abstain. That being said, the nays have it, so the motion is not adopted. All right, everyone, is that magic
Motion-
time?
Motion
on.
to adjourn.
Fast. Corey's getting.
Okay.
Second, all those in, Jean? Oh, motion
Haley
to
Dipple, aye.
Corey,
Corey Evans, aye.
Paul,
Already, aye.
Jack Creighton, aye. This motion is adjourned. Thank you all very, very much.